Do you ever feel like life has made you hard? You have a tendency to hold people at arm's length? Have you been burnt? You ever feel bitter or resentful about the situations that have happened in your life? If not, maybe you know someone who is going through those things. And you wonder, can people change? Is it possible to be transformed? Is there hope? Today, we're going to ask that question. Stay tuned. My wife loves to garden. She is just a natural nurturer. She also loves to study and read and learn, and she knows what it takes to have a seed grow into a plant that produces food. She knows how much water and sunshine and nutrients are needed. She knows also how to deal with weeds and pests. She is just good at it. So when we moved into our house, she was excited to see that the previous owner had brought in all the soil with the intentions of growing a garden. It didn't take her long to get at it, and before I knew it, it was just teeming with life. She had a vibrant garden going, and it didn't take her long to want to start to expand the garden, which is a trait I found common with gardeners. So we did. And once we started, it didn't take long to realize why the previous homeowner had brought in the dirt in the first place. The ground around was sandy and rocky and weedy and not good for growing things. So my wife, being the expert nurturer that she is, started researching it to see what would it take to transform that soil into good crop-growing ground. I think about that often as I've watched her work throughout the years about how people mirror the natural world. Jesus would tell stories all the time that connected things in the natural world to our own lives. And he did that in Matthew 13, where he tells a story about a farmer who is sowing seed. Here's how it goes. A farmer went out to sow a seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Some fell in rocky places where it did not have much soil. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow. But when the sun came up, the plants were scorched because there was no root. Other seed fell among thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. Still other seed fell on good soil where it produced a crop. Different soils, different results. But what was the same? The seed was the same, but the soils were different. It leads me to have the question, can the soils change? I believe they can. It's possible. Now, let's look at that first soil that he mentioned, along the path. In our garden, my wife, who I help out from time to time, has made it very clear to me there are places I can and cannot walk. I can walk on the paths, stay off the rows. Don't step over the rows. Don't think about stepping over the rows. Stay on the path. The path are where people walk. It's where we take the wheelbarrows. It's where we can go. Stay off the rows where the plants are. And I've noticed something. Within just a few inches where the path ends and the rows begin, life changes drastically. There is nothing growing on the path. There is nothing there. It is dirt. And I wonder, what makes soil hard? So I looked this up. I asked her, I Googled it too. What makes soil hard? Paths are made for people to walk on. There's more weight on the path. Excessive weight is one of the first things that causes hard soil. The second thing is weather. The rain, the heat, the drying, the moisture compacts it even more. Negligence is the third thing. And finally, intentional compacting. All of those factors go in to making that soil hard. And when it's hard, there's no room for air or for water to get in to even feed the seed. There's no room for the seed itself to get under the surface or the roots to get down to the nutrients. Well, think about your life. Have you ever had those situations? If you're feeling like you've got a hard heart right now, the soil of your life is hard and compacted, what causes it? Excessive weight? Could it be the obligations of people, the expectations of those around you, the pressure that you feel just in your roles in life, in the context of your life, just to survive one day to the next? Maybe it's the weather. Maybe you have some serious storms in your life. Maybe your health is failing. Maybe you've lost a job. Maybe your relationship is hanging on by a thread or is broken. Maybe your kids are wayward. Maybe there's addictions that are controlling you. There's just storms in life. Maybe it's negligence. Are there areas of your life that you're not doing that you know you need to do? The quiet alone time that you need to take, the relationships that you need to pursue, the things that we need to learn, the habits we need to change. Are you negligent in any of those areas? And then maybe there's places where you're intentionally compacting things, holding people at arm's length because of what's happened in the past. Maybe you're running away from relationships because it's just easier. We hole up and find ourselves in places where it's easy to fall into depression. All of those lead into a hardening of the heart that make it hard for us to survive day to day. But I'm telling you, it's possible to change. So if we go back to the garden illustration, when we have hard soil, what do? Now the temptation is to go the fast route. Get a tiller, tear it up. When you do that, it might be the fastest, but it isn't the best. What happens when we use a tiller to the soil? It chops it up, turns it up. Anything in its path is going to be greatly disturbed. That means the microorganisms, the things that are in the soil that could be helpful to soften it, are getting beat up and destroyed also. It takes actually more organic material after you've tilled it than if you wouldn't have tilled in the first place. It makes the situation worse. You might look at it and think that you've done well, but you quite possibly have done more harm than good. Don't be a human tiller in people's lives, telling people just to suck it up or telling them what they should be or should do, making it sound simple when those situations aren't simple that brought us to the places where we're hardened. The answer, if you ask a gardener, to the hard soil softening question is by knowing the right organic materials to introduce. My wife puts down a layer of cardboard or newspaper to block out the weeds, to stop the weeds from growing that might be there. And then she starts to layer on like a lasagna these different organic materials. It could be rabbit droppings, it could be straw, it could be chicken manure, it could be food scraps. And then she lets it rest. She lets it sit over the winter. She doesn't touch it. And in fact, what you could even do is plant buckwheat or rye or some cover crops that allow the roots to penetrate the top of the soil. And then when it's time for the next growing season, we turn those all in. And we mix that soil all in together. And those organic materials, the outside things, have leaked into that soil and made it something new. That is what the church is called to be. That's what people like me and you who are Christ followers are called to be to a world who is hardened. We come alongside of them and we love them like Jesus loved us. In spite of attitudes, actions, and behaviors, we let the love of Christ flow through us and into them by our words and our deeds. He's chosen to use the church as His hands and feet, being led by His Spirit through His Word. Hard soil can slowly, over time, chip away. We understand that it's not a sprint, that these situations of people becoming hard didn't happen overnight, and we won't get out of them overnight either. So what do? If you're the person today and you're feeling hard, the first thing I would ask you to do is take an inventory of your life. Ask yourself about those 4 areas. Where's excessive weight? What's the weather like? Are you neglecting things? Are you intentionally compacting things? And then put yourself around people who can nurture and love your soil over time well. If you're here today and you have people in your life who are struggling with those things, keep on keeping on. Love them well. Be patient. Practice grace and mercy and compassion. Love them like Christ loves us, carefully and well, and know that it's possible. As long as there is breath in your lungs and life in your body, it's possible that things can change. The best thing I can tell you today is that the sower is still sowing seeds. The seed doesn't change, but your soil sure can. How's your soil today? How are you loving those around you that you've called to be that material that God puts on top of things to soak through into their lives? What an opportunity we have. Can you imagine what this world would be like if we loved like that? If we nurtured each other like that? We could have a garden that is vibrant.